Iran has been supportive of the Palestinians since since the revolution in Iran, but also before that. After the revolution, it was actually put into the constitution, and it turned into let's say a basic policy of the Islamic Republic to support the Palestinians and to be against the Israelis, the regime. So this support has been for so long, and for the past year, we have been witnessing this genocide in Gaza, and after that the massacre in Lebanon. And from the early days after the October 7th last year, Iranians said that this war needs to be ended, and Iran is supporting the Palestinians. And the whole resistance network in the region tried to stop this war, or at least reduce the tension by, let's say, engaging into some conflict with the Israeli regime in order to prevent them from attacking more massively against the Gaza. With that approach, they tried to help the Palestinians. And gradually we came forward, and then we had this conflict, the direct conflict between the Israeli regime and Iran. And if you can remember that in April they actually attacked our consulate section in Damascus, and then we retaliated with some missile attack. Then we had some other, let's say, assassinations. Finally, the assassination of Mr. Haniya inside Tehran on the very day of inauguration of the new president. And then after a while, Iran was hopeful, based on the comments by the other Western countries, that there might be some ceasefire in Gaza. And because of that, Iran decided to halt any retaliation at that time after the assassination of Mr. Haniya. Because for the Iranians, the ceasefire and stopping the killing of the people in Gaza was the most important thing. And the whole story for past year, the whole support was for this cause, to help Palestinians and to stop this war machine in Gaza. But unfortunately, after nearly 2 months, not only this ceasefire did not happen, but also the Israelis attacked others, and they killed actually many commanders in Hezbollah in Lebanon. They had that terrible pager attacks against many civilians in Lebanon, and they assassinated Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of the Hezbollah, and including a high-ranking IRGC commander there with him. So after that, Iran decided to retaliate again, and we had that missile attack. Again, the Israelis did attack Iran. So it was crossing a terrible red line, actually, that they did. So now, after the attack that Israelis carried out against Tehran, it's not just about Gaza, it is Gaza and Iran. So there are 2 points right now. We need to stop the attacks on Gaza and Lebanon, but also we need to, let's say, redesign the balance of power in this region. And Iran needs to defend its integrity, its security. So because of that, now it is not just an attack about ceasefire. So ceasefire is not going to halt an Iranian retaliation anymore. Ceasefire is a good, and it's a necessity, it's a must. But what Iran is considering right now is that it needs to respond. First of all, if the ceasefire has not happened, which has not happened so far, Iran needs to force the Israelis to stop that. And we have seen for the past year, more than a year, that the only thing that they understand is a forceful command. So if there's no force, democratically, diplomatically, and such things is not something that work for the Israeli regime to stop their massacres and the killing of the people and genocidal attacks that they are carrying out in Gaza and in Lebanon. Iran says that we need to respond massively and strongly, first to stop the war in Gaza, and second to protect our security and integrity, and to retaliate this violation of our integrity that happened by the Israelis. It has not happened yet, the retaliation. So maybe by then a ceasefire might happen. If that happens, as I said, it would not stop the retaliation, but it might reduce the scale and the dimension of the attack that might happen by the Iranian side. But as I said, Iran sees these operations as something to support the Palestinians and to stop this war, and has realized that this cannot happen by relying upon the United Nations or Security Council or having negotiations with the Westerners, with the Americans. So it's not working like that. We have experienced that. So it's not. There is no hope in the next American administration, for example, or the Europeans or the UN Security Council. The only thing that can solve this is to have a strong language with them. The rumors and what the reports that appear on media, especially on Western media, is saying that there might be some attacks from other countries in the region, like Iraq, for example, or Syria or Lebanon. I'm not saying that it is true. I have no news about that, but it is likely. Iran needs to send a strong message to the Israeli regime about what it did, and it needs to be a punishment, not just a message. It needs to be a strong punishment as well. Just like the difference between the first operation and the second operation missile attack that we had, the first one was just a signal that we can pass through the defense system of the Israelis and the Americans and the other allies. The second one was to hit some targets, to have some impact on the ground in the occupied lands. I expect that the third one would be even larger than the past two ones. So I think that this means it needs to have some casualties, strong casualties, especially in terms of facilities or infrastructure, not necessarily people, especially if they are so-called civilians. So that is my expectation. They need to feel that if this is going to continue, if this exchange of attacks is going to continue, then it would turn into an existential war for the Israelis. They need to understand this by this upcoming response that Iran is going to send. So it needs to be strong. I cannot say for sure what type it would be, but I think that there are many options on the ground, on the table, because Iran has many offensive capabilities that has not unveiled them yet. So the types of missiles or the drones or other weaponries that they have would be used, I think, to some extent in the next one. And according to the statements by officials, it would be a huge surprise for the Americans and Israelis. Assassination of General Soleimani was a huge mistake, and we can say it ruined every chances for detent and any improvement of ties between the two countries. But regardless of that, the main problem is the wrong approach that the Americans still have. The attitude of American exceptionalism and the idea that they are still a superpower, which are not anymore, is something that is destroying any positive communication between the two countries. So Iran is a growing country and it is becoming more powerful. And just like many other countries like Brazil, China, Russia, South Africa, India, many other countries that are gaining some significance in the world. But the Americans and after Americans, the Europeans even, the Western Europeans, do not want to believe that the world has changed. They are still reluctant to believe that. They are still resisting against the fact that the world has changed and the power has shifted from the Cold War and the bipolar world, and after then The unipolar world, the power has shifted to many places, and it's not working like the past. So the Americans are not the ruler of the world. They are not the superpower anymore, but they are still adhering to the old habits, and they want to talk to Iran from let's say a higher position, and Iran is not accepting that. Iran is now a world player, a global player, and a regional power, and has gained some momentum in this region. So you cannot work in this region without, let's say, participation or involvement of Iran. So with such a country, you cannot work like that. Iran in 2024 is not Iran in 1970s, when Shah was ruling here and he was actually a puppet government to the Americans. So since this wrong mindset is in place in among the Americans, there is no ground for improvement of ties. The only way to improve this relationship is when they change the attitude toward Iran. This was happening in early years of the President Obama. He actually sent a letter to Iranian leader saying that we are not after regime change anymore. We accept Iranian right to the nuclear power, peaceful nuclear facilities, and several other things, and we want to improve our relationship with Iran. It was the letter that President Obama sent to the supreme leader of Iran at that time. If you remember, the 2009 election erupted. We had the unrest erupted in Iran. As soon as they saw that unrest, they changed everything. So the same person who just 2 or 3 months before the election had sent that letter changed the attitude, and again it was a reset, and actually he again adhered to regime change policies of to change the government inside Iran, and they supported the protesters and the unrest, and then after that we had further sanctions. Again, the same old story, and the same actually guidebook came on the table, and they followed the same agenda, and we are seeing the results. It was very, let's say, useless, and it was destructive, not positive policy and approach to work with Iran. If this is not changed, no real change would happen. We might have some negotiations, we might have something like JCPOA, which I doubt would happen anymore. But even if those happens, that would be very interim and very short period, just like the Obama administration. He himself signed the JCPOA, it was his own initiative, but he did not implement it completely. And the first killer of the JCPOA was Obama himself, not President Trump. He did not remove the sanctions. He did not actually fulfill the commitments that they had made in the deal. So even if that happens again, there is no positive ground for further improvement of relations.